Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995. Hi everybody, I'm Sally, call me Zena. It's a slightly different time today and we're doing a little different show. So I hope you all I hope you enjoy our show and you all sit around and listen to me. I actually have an author here with me right now, an editor, as I'm going to be redoing my book, Call Me Zena. So I'd like to introduce Lynn Everard to you. And hopefully we're going to have a nice conversation, talk about what's going on and how the book's going to progress.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Sally. And I'm excited. You first produced this book in 2008. And there's so much that's happened in your life since then. So I'm excited to work with you to give it a, call it a remixing, a remastering, an updating, whatever you want to call it. But there's so much that people get to learn about you and right. Where all of your abilities come from.
Right, and it's something that I've wanted to do for quite a long time, as I had mentioned to you, Lynn, because at that time, which was quite a few years ago, when I wrote that, I had no idea what was happening to me. It's basically about, as you have read the book, about how I was astral projecting. To me, it was all very new. So I knew that there would be an ongoing version of that book. So I'm delighted that I met you, and it just fell into place. So hopefully, not hopefully, we will have a beautiful story to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's always exciting when we engage in writing a book or even updating it, because our book is actually the story of our life in many cases, and obviously that's true for nonfiction books, but even for fiction books, people more often than not include at least one character in their book that represents them.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of fiction books are about the hero's journey.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And good versus evil and things like that. And so it's fun. Like, I do mainly nonfiction books, but it's fun working with people who write fiction books, because then I'm actually looking to see where they're coming out in it.
Right.
What they're showing of themselves.
And obviously mine is a nonfiction.
Yes.
But during the years that I've progressed on this journey, I have learned so much more. So in this book, as we had talked about, we're going to put more detail into it, partly maybe my background on how all this came about.
Yes, because there's an old saying that says it doesn't matter where we started in life, it matters where we finish.
Exactly.
But when you're writing a book, it does matter where you start in life.
Right.
Because people need to know the entirety of the story.
Right.
They can't celebrate the next steps with you until they actually understand where you came from.
Exactly, yes, because as much as at that time I was just documenting what was happening to me, but really there was only a few, maybe not even one chapter of who I actually was and what had happened. My reason for that at that time, because I wasn't sure how far I was going on this journey, is that my book is a book of hope. I want to give people an idea of what can happen because it happened to me. However, I think now it's really important for people to know my background and where I started and how I started this journey many, many years prior to the book coming about, because people can relate to that, and it's still a journey of hope. I was going through a difficult period, but that's all I wrote. Now we need to explain more. So I think this
Absolutely.
is good.
And one of the things that I deal with on a regular basis as a book development consultant is when people are getting ready to write their book or even rewrite their book or update their story, oftentimes there's this thought that I'm telling the story of my past up until that moment.
Right.
But what they don't realize is that the writing journey itself is a part of their transformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So that when they
Yeah.
get to the end of the book, it's not only the transformation that took place up to the writing of the book, but it's also the transformation that took place in the writing of the book.
And that's interesting that you actually said that, because just writing part of my story, it made me look much more at my life in depth, because some of the things that I also had expressed, that was this coincidence, or how in the world did this happen? At that time, going back before where I am now, I couldn't explain some of these things that had happened. But now, because my journey has been ongoing, I see now why all this happened. And it's very important to express that in a book, I think, to let
Absolutely.
people know.
Like, let's talk about the beginning of your story, right?
Right.
Most people, if they heard the beginning of your story, you would have been the person most of them wanted to be.
Right.
Right? Or at least in their mind somewhere,
yes.
in what they thought the perfect world would look like for them.
Right, right.
But we don't always stay where we start. And wherever we start is the beginning of that lesson for us and that growth and transformation for
Right,
us. So
right.
some of us have the opportunity to move up, and some of us have to move down to move up. Right?
Interesting too, because my whole world came apart, and we can go into that a little bit. But at the time, I said, "What in the world is happening to me?" I had started my journey, but I wasn't aware of that. Right. Now, when I look back in retrospect, I can see why that happened. It was all leading to me to wake up to more of what was going on. And I often refer to that as you hit your rock bottom. And that's actually what happened to me, because I had nowhere to go but up. And I think at that point, I suddenly saw, I didn't know it, but when I went back to write my story, and although I didn't do much at that time in the book, I see now why that actually happened to me. There were reasons for that.
Yes, and rock bottom is such a fascinating concept, right?
Right.
Because most of us, when we think of rock bottom, we think we've gone to the bottom and we hit a rock, okay? Yes. But the reality for many of us, for most of us, if we're open to it, is that what we are calling the rock is actually a spring.
That's beautiful.
Right?
Yes, I never looked
because
at it that way.
Because that spring
yes,
is designed to then
yes.
launch us back up again.
Right, right.
To go even higher than where we were.
Yes.
But it doesn't always translate into our physical world, right? Because once we understand the spiritual aspects of things and know how that is where we're really living, and then we are, the physical life we're living becomes an expression of that.
And it now, looking back on it, and I'm on my way up again, which I have been for a few years, which is many years
right.
actually, but I see now why all these things happened. I needed to wake up. I needed to know who and what I was able to achieve in this life. And I see it so clearly now. So going back to writing the book, I think definitely now is the time. I mean, I can't wait a whole lot longer because I'm not getting any younger, but I do want to, I want to share this with people. I want people to understand sometimes when they're going through a difficult time, Lynn, as you do too, and I know that too. That's why I think it's great that we're going to do the book together here. Yeah. And that I show you people that there is hope, there is light at the end of the table. You don't necessarily have to wake up to everything spiritual, but just know, as I did in the beginning, and this journey to me is amazing. I'm learning something every single day, but there is hope. It's a book of hope. It's a book of understanding why sometimes things happen. And if you follow that journey, life is good, life is amazing, but we just don't see it sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think even when we could embrace the idea that what we're going to be hitting when we hit, quote, rock bottom is a spring.
Right.
Some of us don't care, in the sense that when we get to the spring, we want to grab a hold of it and hold on as if that is what we need to embrace. Right?
Right.
But it's if we could decide when we feel ourselves, because most of us feel the bottom dropping out of life, right? Some of us, it hits us overnight and we're blindsided by it, so to speak. But for most of us, we know we're going down. And so then the question is, will I use the spring to bounce back up, or will I hold on to it dearly the way I tried to hold on to everything that I lost on the way down?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful explanation, actually, of seeing that people, and I myself included, I didn't realize, it just seemed to be that everything in my life was just disappearing, but I didn't understand it. Yes, I had depression, I had anxiety. However, I had one thing that I'm very glad now when I look back. I kept going. I'm saying, well, today is another day. I would put a smile on my face, and we'll get into that more, how I ended up in this country. I'm originally from London in England, but I ended up in America not knowing anyone and very little resources, very little. But I knew if I didn't smile, somebody was helping me. I did not smile, everybody around me is going to be depressed. I'm not going to meet anybody. So that's how I began my journey. Looking back now, every day was a new day. I was hurting very much inside, but I couldn't show it. And I think this is so important to show people, because there are many people, I'm not alone with this, that we can help. I definitely believe that.
Absolutely. And people read books because they're looking for something, even if they don't know what it is.
Right.
But I believe that in most cases, what people are looking for is to be inspired. To find something in that book that says, you know what, I see myself there.
Relating to it,
yes.
right,
And
yes.
if that person did it, I can do it too.
Yes, and that's really what, with all my heart, I want to show people that. And I know that I found the right person to be able to put that on paper for me. I'm not good at writing. I wrote that, I was just documenting, but I just feel very much that we're on the right track now to show people
well, because
that.
it's beautiful, because there's a sense in which when you sense your purpose in the writing, and then you realize that it is not going to let go of you. 8 years ago, I had the privilege of sitting in a room filled with 500 people, and I got to listen to Wayne Dyer talk for 2 days, you know, and it was just amazing. But it took a long time for that to translate into me. That first I was gonna write books, but then I was gonna help other people write books as well.
Well, I don't believe in coincidences. This is not a coincidence. I love Wayne Dyer. He had quite a story from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
And it was just amazing what he was able to do, and he touched many, many people's hearts. Right?
People don't realize that Wayne Dyer's first book, he had an agent. He did it the old-fashioned way. It was a long time ago. His agent had got him an appointment with someone at a publishing house. And he went late in the afternoon, had his manuscript in his briefcase, was going to hand it to the guy, and he walked in, and Wayne was a therapist, and he saw the guy, and he said, "This guy does not look good." And so he spent all his time with this man, pouring himself into the man and helping the man work through the problem he was having. And he felt so good about it, that what he had done. He didn't realize until he had left the office, when he was back down walking on the street, that he had never taken the manuscript out of the briefcase. His agent called him and was very upset with him. But Wayne Dyer did the right thing that day. And over the course of the rest of his life, he would write and have published 41 books.
Many of which I have read, and I'm sure you have too.
Yes, and so it just, you know, if we will do what we know is right in the moment,
absolutely,
then everything that we want will
falls into place. Absolutely. We don't really have to do more than just, and my motto is believe, because anything is possible, and I will always say that. You've got to have the belief. So you follow it and know what you're believing and thinking will come about. Our timing sometimes is a little off, but I believe it's off for some sort of reason too. I was meant to come here at the Brooklyn Cafe 2 years ago. A friend of mine was on the show quite a lot, and he kept inviting me here. I didn't show up. I truly feel now that I love it here. I love it. And I feel that I'm meeting, including yourself, of course, all the right people for me to follow my path today, just as yourself too. And it's
absolutely. This feels like family.
It
right?
does, doesn't
it's
it?
Like,
yeah, it does.
I think there must be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 different shows, but everybody is part of a family, and we're all want to see each other do well.
Absolutely.
And to be a part of that.
And there's no like competition, or it's
Right.
just because I think, you know, I believe very much in positive vibrations and energy, as you do too, because for me to find someone, and I've waited quite a while knowing that maybe I would have another book, but I just feel that we're on that same energy
Right,
here. So
right.
that's why we're doing it right now. The timing is now.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take a second and do a shameless plug if it's okay.
Absolutely.
So I and Luis Gomez are co-hosts of the Editor's Desk, which is on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. And one of the things we do is we interview authors and find out about their journey of writing, find out what their experience was like. And so it's quite fascinating because 9 out of every 10 people start writing a book never finish it. So we look into what makes that 1% tick, what their motivation is, how it works. So, you know, at some point we'll be able to have you on our show and have a conversation about the entire journey.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of work ahead of us, and
We do.
I'm excited,
Yes.
very, very excited about
Yeah,
it.
and it's a beautiful process, and it takes as long as it's meant to take.
As long, I was just going to say that. Yes, if
Yeah.
it takes a month or it takes 3 months, it's the way it's meant to be. As long as we continue on this journey, it all
Yes.
falls into place.
That
and
is
that's beautiful.
Absolutely
Right,
what it's
right,
about. And
right.
I know everyone is ready when they're ready. I can't do a thing for anyone that's not ready. But when they're ready,
I'm ready.
then it's time.
I'm 110% ready
Yeah.
right now. And as if anybody has read the first book, I have a guy that was here that came into my life just at the right time. He manifested himself to meet me. He came in at a year old knowing everything, but the timing when he met me, he had been looking for me. But he passed away a year ago.
Right.
But he kept saying to me, Sally, there will be another book. This is just the beginning on the first book. It was mainly about my astral projection. And I feel his presence so much right now. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a believer to feel this. I feel it. I get goosebumps, and I know he's with me saying, go for that second book, Sally. Go for that second book. So here we are.
Yeah,
Right.
Everything happens when it's time.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we never have to worry about feeling like we're late or we missed the opportunity or anything like that.
No.
It happens when it's meant to happen.
Right. So I think maybe we're getting to the time of that how much time do we have, Josh?
You still got about 15 minutes.
Oh
so
my
half
gosh, this is going by so fast. I thought that maybe we were already at the end of the first part of the show. Okay, well that sounds good. We've got a little bit longer to talk
Well,
about.
so maybe this is a good time for you to share a little bit about your beginnings.
I will do, yes, absolutely. I'm going to, which we will have in the beginning of the book. It's partly in writing right now, but I'm going to go into more depth on that. I was born in London, England. I'm going to say at the very end of the Second World War. It gives you some idea of my age, which I don't normally tell, but I think it's important at this point because I'm coming out with my story later in my life.
Right.
And I was born into, I'm going to say, a middle to upper class family. I had everything. I went to a boarding school and I had the best education at that point. But there was something lacking very much in my life. I wasn't sure what it was. I was suffering from depression at that point, but not bad. It was life situations and circumstances that brought me more, unfortunately, on a downhill. Mm-hmm. I got married very young. I got married at 19, and I'm certainly not here to say anything about my ex-husband because that's not the right thing to do. However, when I eventually did get divorced with my 2 children, I lost everything. He had family in this country, and it happened, and I have to probably mention this, that I was left in England with nothing. That is part of my story. So
Right.
if anybody listens to this or they're saying, well, is your ex-husband going to listen? That's okay. I understand that. I was left having had everything, and suddenly I'm in England. He brought my children over to this country where they lived with his family at that point, and I'm saying, what in the world do I do now? I had nothing. My home had been taken away from me. Everything had been taken away, but I knew I had to come and find my children. So part of that journey was the beginning of what was happening to me. I came over, I got on a plane. We'll go into much more detail. And I got into a plane and I had $2,000 to my name with nothing else at all. Having had everything, it was even harder for me to be able to cope. So it's an ongoing story, but we'll go into more detail, obviously, in the book about that and how I did eventually survive. And 40 years later, here I am. But I had ups and downs, but it was all the beginning of my transition into this journey here. So we'll go in, obviously, into much more detail about that.
Well, like we said earlier, it's far less important where you start than where you finish, but the start is important because it sets things in motion for what is going to happen in your life.
Absolutely.
And begins to create the story. And the challenge for many of us is that we only listen to the story in the beginning and don't realize that we're the creator of the story. And we can then, when we're ready, we can take control of the creative process in our own lives and then begin to create the lives we say that we want to have. Many of us believe that because we didn't create it, because we don't think we created it in the beginning.
But we do, absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
but because we don't think we created it in the beginning, we think we don't have any creative ability at all during any of our life.
But the most amazing thing now, when I look back on my life, because that's what we're doing, and I did a little bit there, it's like whatever I thought I wanted to happen, and I didn't understand it, in spite of everything that I was going through, in spite of lack of money, having a proper home, it seemed to come about. I would look up, and I remember I was in Florida, I was on Singer Island, and I remember looking at a beautiful high-rise. I'd only been here, there's much more to the story, a couple of months. And I said, you know what, to myself, I wish I could live on the beach like that. Within 3 months, I was living there. And so many more stories, which we can put in the book. I didn't understand how it was happening. It's like everything I thought seemed to come about. And now when I look back, we are what we think, good or bad. But I was very positive, and it was hard to be positive, but I was positive. I knew I was going to make it. I couldn't fail. But it was a lot of downs with that journey, of course, but it all worked out in the end.
It does, and we all have that power, that ability to create.
Absolutely. No, I'm not special in that particular case.
No, and I think it's so important for people to understand that, because we're still so programmed to think, yeah, well, they can do it, but I can't. Or something like that, right? When actually it's no, that's not true at all. But it's a truth with a small t. Yes. That we've come to believe. Right. And it's those beliefs that really create our life.
Well, as I can't say it enough. The belief that we have makes everything happen. That's why it's so important. People say, "Oh, to me, Miss Positive or Mrs. Positive." I'm positive for a reason. In fact, I have a really good girlfriend who said, and she's one of my best friends, and she'll be listening to this show, so I'm going to actually mention what she said to me. I said, "Can you meet me on Saturday?" She says, "Sally, I'm not feeling that happy. I don't want to be around you if I'm not feeling that happy." I said to her, "No, I want to be with you. First of all, I would not be a good friend if I wasn't with you, and secondly, I'm going to make you happy." So she believes in me, and I'm meeting her Saturday, and I'm going to make her happy.
Well, isn't it interesting that we believe we have so much power we can make other people unhappy, but we don't believe we can make ourselves happy.
Right. And that's, she understands my story. She's been with me on this journey for about 25 years. So she understands, and she's working, and I want to just say, if you're listening, you're doing a good job because you know who you are. But she's doing well, but you know, we're all human. We're in a 3D world here with a lot of lower vibrational energies.
Well, yes, and then we get into this place where we start apologizing for being human.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, that's crazy.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm human.
Yes, exactly.
Well, why would you be sorry about that? That's what you are.
Exactly. That's yes, and that's how it is. But, you know, people. The good thing is that people that are suffering from depression and anxiety today, it is more. I'm not going to say people accept it. Years ago, if you had something that was bothering you, couldn't even tell people because they didn't know and people just suffered so much. There is help out there today.
Yes.
And that's what's really good, and that's why I think it's good. Plus, how I have risen above a lot of that to show how this can work. It's really, really important. So
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I love about your show is that you're here for people who have questions that are overwhelming to them and who need reassurance, encouragement, support. It's just the sense of knowing, on having a confirmation that something that they feel is actually valid.
Right.
Instead of having to get caught up inside themselves and feel like, I'm the only person feeling this and the only person who's ever experienced this and all of that. So it's just so important.
Well, I try very hard, Lynn. I'm getting messages, people, because of my show now. I try to answer them individually. However, just to let people know, if they're thinking of calling in, it is better if you can call in, because I'd sooner get in touch with someone, even if I'm not face to face, to feel part of their vibrational energy, to just help. I mean, it's only maybe just one question and it might only be a short answer, but I can get more of a feel. They can write to me, absolutely, and I certainly do try to answer everyone.
Right.
But if they can call in, or face to face, and I do private actually too. If somebody wants a private session, I'd be happy to do that too. However, and I get a lot of people asking me about the show. Is it free for that one question? Absolutely, it's free for the one question on the show. I just want to let people know that, because a lot of people ask me that.
That's great. Because it is really something that people need to be able to have, and this is a beautiful service.
Yes.
That is being offered. So I'm so glad that you're doing this.
It's needed. It's really needed. Yes, absolutely. And I feel that the timing for myself, because I feel now that I feel much more aware of what's going on, so I have much more confidence in myself to be able to guide somebody into the right direction. Maybe a few years back, although I could do this, we're all human, and I'm thinking, am I sure? But I know today that I can definitely help people, and that's what I want to do.
And one of the things that we'll get into deeper in the book is, really more of what you're all about, and that will help people have confidence that when they call you, that you're someone who's going to be able to help them.
Yeah, this is my life mission for as long as I have here now. I mean, this is what I want to do. I feel really good when I put my head on that pillow, that even if I've just helped one person, maybe 10 people have called in, and they may not always listen because I didn't listen, and I understand that too. But if one person that I can help out of the 10, I feel good about myself too.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this, there are like laws of the universe, and I don't know if this is an official law, but when you think about something like that, I'll call the law of multiplication, right? Because we don't know what that one person that we help is actually going to do. We might look at it from the standpoint of, well, I'm only helping one person. But what if that one person turns out to be someone who can help millions?
Exactly. We
Right?
don't know. We
don't
don't
know.
know. And it's funny that you even brought that up, because on Facebook I have a lot of followers and friends. Very often some of the posts that people say, and it's total, can you repeat that? Because I get channeled sometimes. Just what we were just talking about, it left my mind as I was explaining that.
Yeah, that we don't realize that we think when we're working one-on-one with someone that we're helping one person, but we don't know what that one person's going to do with what we gave them, or what we allowed to come through us to them.
Absolutely.
Right?
So,
and what they're going to do with it.
yes, and that's why I do try to answer each question. And it's not easy always on a text, but it's important, because that we don't know. And people say also, always put a smile on your face when you greet someone, even in a grocery store, because you don't know what that person is going through. And if you smile at 20 people, 3 or 4 of those people might be really depressed. It will help their day. And I read that often, and that's really, really important. Really important, yes.
And it's fascinating when you hear the stories.
Okay, I think we're going to take a break for a commercial,
Okay.
and we will be right back in a few minutes. Thank you. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you.
A true story, Call Me Zena is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the 3rd dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybernard.com today. Now, back to the show. Hi, welcome back everybody. I think we have a few questions here, so I'll be happy to answer them.
Will we bring back?
Give us a few seconds to get the questions together.
Here's the first one.
Okay.
The first one says, is praying and meditation the same?
My first reaction to that is yes. Actually, it is. If you're praying, you are meditating at the same time. You will get and listen too. You know, a lot of people pray, they want something or they want guidance. That's a form of meditation because it will come to you. The fact that you're expressing it, however you express it, is a form of meditation, which is prayer too.
So you think meditation is like praying to the spiritual higher power?
I do.
Or to yourself?
No, you're praying because I rely very much on my collective that's answering these questions for me right now. As you pray, you are not only, we have a higher self that we're in communication with too. So how I feel about this, as you pray, you are talking. You're talking to what I want to call the other side of the veil. I'm not taking God out of the scenario at all. But you know, and I just to express that, people say, but God, why would he be listening to me? He's got so many other people to listen to. I mean, we do say that. However, it's all part of what I call a Christ consciousness that is within us. So as we pray, our vibrational energy goes out to the people on the other side of the veil. And of course, that includes God. Whatever your belief system is, we have a creator. Thank you.
Do you believe non-meat eaters or people that don't eat meat or people that don't eat animals and all that are more spiritual than others?
No. I think that we have a lighter body. I'm actually changing and I'm not eating red meat anymore, but I don't think it's a prerequisite, excuse me, to do that. I mean, you can still be spiritual, but it's how we feel in our stages of life. I personally have chosen not to eat red meat because I love animals and I'm not criticizing people. They're there actually, they say, but it's our food source. I am still eating fish and I'm eating eggs. I'm sure maybe I might change, maybe I won't, but it's a personal thing. It's personal.
We have a question that says, is it better for someone to have a wide range of knowledge or a deep knowledge about few things?
Okay, that's kind of a little bit complicated to answer. A deep knowledge about a few things is beautiful. And is it better for someone to have a wide range of knowledge? That again is an individual thing. I think that we are, as far as I'm concerned, we're programmed to be a certain way. We go to school, we learn certain things. Just because you know a lot, that you're very, say, bright in school, doesn't necessarily make you follow this path. So it's half a dozen of one and 6 of the other. Sometimes we know too much and we listen and we're too much in our mind. I personally was not the best student in school actually, and I got to understand this, whereas if I had had my mind completely complicated with doing all the things that I had to do, I hate math, but if I'd concentrated very deeply on understanding math, other things may not have come to me. If that explains it, it's kind of hard to answer this, but this is kind of what I'm trying to say.
So I guess a better way I can ask is, because I wasn't good at math too when it came to like the general stuff, but when it came to college and what I wanted to actually do, that's when my grades got really good and just I got a lot better. So how do you find out what you're meant to do or what you want to do?
By following your intuition and your path. I loved sports at school. I wasn't that, well, I say that, I wasn't really into art. However, behind you is what I achieved later on in life. So again, for me, I actually always wanted to do acting. I ended up with 2 children by the time I was 22, so my acting career didn't take off. But it was something I always wanted to do. However, in my 60s, I became an artist. I didn't know that. So just follow your gut. Follow what you feel that you want to do through life. It may not be the job you're in, because most people say, oh, I don't want this job. It may be, but just see how you feel and carry on. You know, if you feel like scribbling as I did, maybe you're an artist. If you're singing in the shower and it sounds good, maybe you're a singer. Just continue with your gut, with what is leading you to do the things that you want to do.
Could I go back to the question on knowledge?
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's something that I keep hearing, and it's such a reminder for me, and that is that no one cares what you know until they know that you care.
I love that.
Right?
Yes.
And it's because it's really about what they're going to feel from us first is that we care. And then they might be interested in what we know. They might not be.
I think people open
Right?
up more once you're relating to them and their stories, which generally you do when you're on this journey.
Right.
They feel that, so they're more likely to open up to you than someone that says you do it this way and you understand that.
Yeah,
you know?
and you know, I tend to look at things as that everything is a belief system, right?
Yes, yeah.
And we all have beliefs, and the combination of all our beliefs form our belief systems. But our belief systems are a choice. Now, some of our belief systems are a choice in the sense that we came from a dysfunctional family, then we had to accept the beliefs of the family in order to survive.
Right, because we also, part of that, and it just came to me as you were talking, we want to be accepted.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be accepted. And I think we're kind of at that point, especially as children, that you want to believe, although it may not be your belief, because you want to be accepted.
Right. And even the question about, you know, whether not eating meat is more spiritual, right? It really is, there's a freedom that we have in the spiritual world to choose what we believe, but also to listen to ourselves and how we feel.
Right.
And if doing something makes you feel healthier, feel better, or not doing it, great. But that may not have the same effect on someone else.
That was a perfect analogy, absolutely. With anything, if you believe that it's going to be what you're going to feel better, I totally believe in that. If you don't let something, as far as food, if you eat healthy,
Right.
you are going to be healthy, because you're not in every case. I can't say that because
Right.
a lot of people are listening, but it helps. It helps to believe that you're going to be healthy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us ask questions because we generally want to know,
Right,
but there's also a sense that we want to be right.
right,
So we keep asking the question because we want the right answer.
right, right.
And in many cases, there isn't a right answer. But we're programmed to believe that there's a right answer to every question.
Yes, yes.
Because when we go to school, all the tests that we took, there was a right answer and a wrong answer.
Exactly. But I learned over the years, actually, because my son actually went back to college later on in life, and he said to me, the maths is so totally different today, how they do it. But that's a very good explanation, because we used to do it one way in school. Now there's a 22 years difference between a little bit more between I had him young. So when he went to school, it was different. Today's children are learning it completely different.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. It's just a different way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
So within life, it's the same thing. It's where we are in our belief system, actually. And nothing
Right.
is the same for any two people sometimes.
And so when we allow ourselves to get past the need to be right, get past the belief systems, and just see that other person as the human that they are,
Right.
that's going to do more to change our world than all of the rules and regulations we can make up.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we do with ourselves. We create all these rules for ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel trapped within ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, we're the jailer.
And carrying on with that, sometimes people, they can be achieving something in their life, and they'll say, but I feel guilty because am I meant to have all this?
Right.
I mean, it can work both ways.
Yes.
This is a program that we've been programmed depending on how you were brought up. Some people, if they can't make their goal, they feel so worthless. That's not right either. So there's got to be, and I've always mentioned this, and I do many times on my show, there has to be a balance. There is no wrong way, there is no right way. It's how we feel about it, right?
Right, and sometimes just knowing that it's okay for you to have your own belief.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
That can be so freeing for us, right?
Yes.
It's really, really crazy how all of that works, but that is the programming that we are a part of.
Well, we are, and I believe very much in that. I hear beautiful music somewhere. Oh, it stopped.
Yeah,
I thought maybe it was just me listening
I
to
turned the sound down on my phone, but I think
it was appropriate.
I think it's still doing stuff.
I love that,
so.
Lynn. It was appropriate. It made this conversation very lighthearted. Okay, but I thought maybe I'm hearing it. They're listening. They're telling me to listen to music. But we are programmed. We're programmed from the moment we come into this world, actually. And we have free will. That's okay. Don't worry. That's all right.
That's all right.
Pleasant.
No, it's
we
distracting.
should follow where we are. Nobody really can tell you what to do. They can, but you don't do what you feel. Do what you feel is right for yourself. And if that helps somebody else, normally, sometimes it does. Because if you're following a path and you feel very positive about something, continue that positivity onto that person.
Right.
It may not land on them, sometimes it doesn't, but at least you've expressed how you feel and what you feel. I don't like to give too much advice if someone is hurting. It's still up to them.
Yeah.
But I can show them what's happened to me and how I handled it. I can't tell them. Everybody's different. That you're going to believe or have the same feeling that I have. They may have something totally different, but at least we've passed that word on.
Well,
right?
and sometimes it's just asking them questions.
Yes.
Right? We have all the answers within us, right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes we're not able to ask ourselves the questions to open up those answers within us. So sometimes somebody outside of us can ask us the right questions.
Yes.
And then that opens something within us, and we say, oh, I had the answer all along. I wasn't asking the right question.
And that also leads me to another an answer to that. We have people come into our lives, and I believe this. It could be for a day, we've heard this. It could be for a month. It could be for a year. It could be forever in this lifetime. But this is my thinking, it's accidental. So if you pass something on to someone, it may not necessarily be their timing to listen, but you've passed it on. So everybody, that's why it's so important to be positive, because even if you're feeling down, that person can feel worse than how you're feeling, and you pass that message on and it's negative. That's going to have an effect not just on that person, on other people that person is going to meet. If we have a positive message, even if we're not really feeling positive that day, put that smile on your face, because that person will maybe put a smile, and that person will meet other people.
And everything you feel is okay. It's just a question of whether or not you're going to make life-changing decisions in the depths of despair.
Right. Because we have free will.
Right.
We don't know when our time is to wake up to
Yes.
this. We don't know also if we're going to be given another day. So it works both ways.
And the only thing I would say is that we're probably not going to make our best decisions when we're highly emotional.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make the emotions wrong. It just says let's deal with this, and then once I've cleared that out, now I can do something else.
because it makes space for something to come in, and we don't want something to come in that's more negative, right? This is
Right.
coming to me too, because it makes sense. It's like we're sitting here, and this is the positive side, and that's the negative side. Again, we do have a little bit of each because of that balance. But if we're just continue to say to ourselves, what's the point of being negative, saying, oh, poor me, this always happens to me? Why not say, even if we don't believe it, oh, that happened, but you know what? Something good is going to happen from that, correct?
Yeah.
So it's a start, and it's a start, because so many people, especially at this particular time in our lives, are hurting, and
Absolutely.
I totally see that.
Yeah.
Not every day is blissful. However, if we just make that little effort to be positive, to put that smile on the face, it will have what we would call like an effect, like there is a word for that, I can't think of the word. It'll go from one person to another.
Like a chain
Yeah,
reaction.
like a
kind of
chain
thing,
reaction, yes. And it does, it really does. And then someone can break the chain. Okay, we'll start over again, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
What is the best way for a person to attain happiness?
okay, that really fits into what we've just been talking about, actually. It's to just fake it till you make it. Continue to say every day, I'm going to be happy today, because that vibrational energy goes into the universe. Don't have to believe it. Believe me, when I was told that in the beginning part of my life, people would say, well, just be happy. You find it very hard, but just fake it till you make it. Be happy, and you'll find that happiness will follow you.
All right, well then, I have a question then.
Okay.
Because I have the clinical depression and all that, how do I get rid of those negative thoughts, I guess, that keep coming in?
Okay.
And listen to the more spiritual or better side of things.
Just being aware of it, Josh, I can relate to that as a child, and we'll bring that up too. I suffered from depression and anxiety, and I think we had this talk. A lot of people that are on their journey, on their spiritual journey, they don't understand a lot of what's going on around them. Where I am an empath, so I could feel other people's reactions to things, and I still do, but I am aware of that today. It's difficult, but sometimes we need that to see what it's like when you begin to feel happy, and you don't want that other side. I don't tell anybody, ever, I am not a doctor. If you're on pills and you need help, go for help and seek it. However, you can still follow your spiritual path. Do it gradually. And in the end, I honestly believe that the spiritual side of you will take over and you will find happiness. I did, and I totally relate to what you're saying. But today, I'm a happy person. My life is going the way that it wanted. I've had a struggle. I had a struggle for me, but I'm much better over the years. Just believe in that and you will feel better.
So it's just like the beginning kind of thing. You just have to have patience and just ride it out.
I
see what
think
happens.
so. I mean, there may be people, nobody goes through this life without problems.
Oh, yeah.
I think even if they tell you they haven't, you kind of question that, right? How can that be? So yes, I'm going to say it's a normal process of life, depending on how bad the depression goes. No one is happy all the time. So if they're not happy, they can say they're depressed. But it might not reach the level of depression that maybe I went through or you're going through. I understand that too. But just know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Do things that make you happy, even if you don't feel like it's making you happy at that time. Continue to do what you want to do, okay? If that helps you, I hope so.
Yeah, thank you. And then we got one last question. Is intelligence or wisdom more useful? Or which one's more useful, intelligence or wisdom?
I'm going to say wisdom. I mean, intelligence is good, but what is intelligence? Intelligence is what we've been trained to believe is intelligence. If you're not a straight A student in school and you have a C or a D, does that make you not intelligent? Maybe you're not interested in the subject that you got the D in front of you, and you may be intelligent in someone else. We're labeled so much here. We're labeled for intelligence. We're labeled that we can't do things. Get away from the labels. Wisdom is important. I think I sought wisdom, and I'm gaining tremendous inner strength from that. I hear from my collective, but it's made me very strong. I believe I was intelligent, but not necessarily the intelligence that I should have had to get all my A's in school, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was someone who was very intelligent in school, almost always at the top of my class. The one year I went to the awards ceremony and fell down 2 flights of stairs and broke my wrist.
Oh my God.
And I still got the attention from my father that I was looking for at the end of every school year. But to me, it's like intelligence is like a mind thing, and wisdom is it's like a heart thing.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yes, perfect explanation.
And when you're caught up in intelligence, a lot of times you're just spinning in your head. But wisdom is always clear.
It's more deeper.
Right?
It's
Yes.
coming from your gut, right?
Yes,
That's
it's
what I
deeper.
guess I was just trying
you
to
can
say.
feel
yeah.
it, like when you're in that space, wherever you are, like we all feel things in certain places within our body, right?
Right.
Like what they call it, like a gut feeling, right? Because many of us experience this knowing
Right.
in our gut.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But so wherever it is for you, but it's like learning where that is for you,
right.
and
right.
then getting familiar with it, and then trusting it.
Right, and that was a perfect explanation to an answer to that question. Absolutely, yes. And I guess I was saying the same thing.
Yes,
And
you were.
You said it beautifully.
You were. I was just
I wasn't
translating
intelligent
into my
enough
language,
to say
right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
you know, intelligence. Everybody has a different degree of intelligence.
Right.
Wisdom comes from within, and that's basically, I think, what we were
Yeah.
both saying. Yeah.
Because you can have all A's in school and not have a clue about how to work your way through life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I believe that
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely.
Well then, how do you open up and listen to your gut more, or trust your gut more than what you're thinking, I guess, inside your head?
Okay, how it happened with me, I think I always knew there was something more. I just wasn't sure. I always believed that maybe, you know, when we passed, that wasn't the end of it. And I was actually psychic, only I didn't really listen to myself at a very early age. But the more you begin to trust your instincts and your gut feelings about things, you are opening up, even if you're not aware of it. And then you'll see things that happen that basically are coincidence, or I think not. That's what I would say. Because you'll see that coincidence, how you say to yourself, how could that have happened? What we're doing is we're beginning to open up a little bit more to just being here, being people in this world just walking around without miracles happening. Miracles happen, that's what we call it, every single day. But you have to believe this. You have to believe, in my point of view anyway, because how do you open up if you don't believe? You're not going to open up. So I think our journey is different for everybody. And again, I believe in past lives, and not everybody is ready in this life. We have things that we need to do still without understanding this. So the question is kind of, that's how I think I'm going to answer it at this point, yes.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Just keep rolling with things.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no more questions left, but yeah, I guess if you want to finish up with another interview, or just to introduce Lynn more.
Okay, Lynn, would you like to say a little bit about, you know, you'll be writing my book, and we're excited about
sure.
that.
Which I'm really excited about, because there's so much in your first version of your book that hadn't happened in you yet, right? It was, and so now there's this, you know, the missing 15 years, right? What happened during that time? And I think that's so important for people to realize about you, that how these gifts that you have, that's the reason you have a show,
Right.
like where those gifts came from and how they evolved within you, how they matured, and how they grew and allowed you to use them and have the confidence within yourself to be staying connected to the collective that guides you.
Well, I got a little bit of help here, because as you can see, all this artwork is mine. I was very stubborn. I wouldn't wake, I was getting dreams, other than when I started to travel, obviously I listened to that. But my messages were to go and paint. I had never been able to paint. I didn't even like art at school particularly. However, because I followed what I was hearing. I have 150 paintings like this today, and I followed a lot of what I could hear. And then again, coincidence? How could this be coincidence? I'd never been an artist. So I listened more. But I started at an older age. I mean, you know, if you can do this as a child, beautiful. I mean, it's wonderful.
I remember, well, if you like Wayne Dyer, then you know who Louise Hay is.
Oh, of course, yes.
Right? And Louise Hay, I mean, she was taking ballroom dancing at age 76.
Yes, yes.
And I think she started painting in her 60s.
Right.
It's you're never too old. I like to say it's never too early and it's never too late. It only is if we think it is.
Well, I'm a good example of that because I'm no spring chicken right now. I've gone through my life. But even just doing this, to be able to be in front of a camera to help people, and it's helping myself because I'm feeling good about what I do. I've always actually wanted to do this, but I didn't, my timing wasn't right. My timing now is. My timing is for the book, and I met the right person to do the second book for me. So it's all like, it's a gradual journey. It's different for everybody. Some children, which we call the indigo children that are coming in, they're not always aware of why they're here, but they seem to be waking up a lot earlier in our lifetime.
Oh yeah, and they're not willing to put up with stuff that we put up with.
Right.
In our generation, right?
And you see that changing a little
Yes,
bit, you know, with
yeah.
the world, with what's going on.
I mean, because we're waking up now and we're realizing, wow, these kids aren't wrong.
Right.
After thinking for many years that maybe they're not quite right.
Right.
So now we're seeing, wait a minute, we're having the same responses to things that they are.
Right.
Only they saw, I believe that young people saw their parents' generation and saw how we devoted ourselves to jobs, traditional jobs, where we could be replaced in a heartbeat and no one would care.
Right, exactly.
And they saw what it did to our families, to our marriages, to our lives, and they said, why would anybody want to live that way?
No, and they're able to be more verbal today. I don't know whether it's just that children are more verbal. I mean, my friend has a granddaughter who's 4, and she said she's like going on 20. So people are coming out with, children are coming out with much more of how they feel and are able to express their feelings. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very important. We were always used to hear as a child, quiet, the adults are talking. Well, that's not really good. I mean, I'm going back a long time. That
Yes,
was a very,
no, I remember that
just
part.
be quiet. We're talking. Shush.
What was the line? Children should be seen
And not heard.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's not good. Children should be heard today. Right.
Right.
Okay, I think we're going to be wrapping this up in a few minutes, as I just got a message that we had 2 more minutes.
Okay.
So that was great. I loved having you on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I can't wait to be able to complete work on your book and for you to be able to share it with your audience.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. It's the next part of a chapter. We're going to move forward. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybernard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.